The great Robert Louis Stevenson has long been one of my favorites, not just as a great writer, but as a man as well. Plagued by a frail body and poor health, destined to die at just 44 years of age, he put more living, more travel, and more work and talent into his short time here on Earth than a million so-called average men. The author of Treasure Island, Kidnapped, Dr. Jekyll, and Mr. Hyde, Stevenson once wrote in a small essay, "As courage and intelligence are the two qualities best worth a good man's cultivation." That's good, isn't it? Courage and intelligence. So it is the first part of intelligence to recognize our precarious estate in life, and the first part of courage to be not at all abashed before the fact. A frank and somewhat headlong carriage, not looking too anxiously before, not dallying in maudlin regret over the past, stamps the man who is well armored for this world, and not only well armored for himself, but a good friend and a good citizen to boot. We do not go to cowards for tender dealings. There is nothing so cruel as panic. The man who has least fear for his own carcass has most time to consider others. So soon as prudence has begun to show up in the brain like a dismal fungus, it finds its first expression in the paralysis of generous acts. The victim begins to shrink spiritually. He develops a fancy for parlors with a regulated temperature. The care of one important body and soul becomes so engrossing that all the noises of the outer world begin to come thin and faint into the parlor with the regulated temperature. He makes some important points in those few words, don't you think? The first and most important being that the two qualities best worth a good man or woman's cultivation are courage and intelligence, and that it's the first part of intelligence to recognize our very precarious estate in life and thus not play it too safely. There's no way to win that game. Tiptoeing through life won't change the final outcome. As soon as too much prudence begins to show up in the brain like a dismal fungus, it finds its first expression in a paralysis of generous acts. The victim begins to shrink and so on. Some people worry so much about the future that they fail entirely to enjoy today. William Lyon Phelps once pointed out that we look backward too much and we look forward too much. Thus we miss the passing moment. In our regrets and apprehensions, we miss the only eternity of which man can be absolutely sure, the eternal present, for it is always now. The fear of life is the favorite disease of the 20th century. Too many people are afraid of tomorrow. Their happiness is poisoned by a phantom. Many are afraid of old age, forgetting that even if they should lose their bodily vigor, weakness itself may minister to the development of the mind and spirit. Instead of chagrin over the past and alarm over the future, suppose we consider our opportunity. As Emerson put it, write in on your heart that every day is the best day in the year. No man has earned anything rightly until he knows that every day is doomsday. Today is a king in disguise. A small lesson from three great minds, Stevenson, Phelps, and Emerson. Courage and intelligence are the two qualities best worth our cultivation, and don't play it too safe. The man who has least fear for his own carcass has most time to consider others. There's a little green paperback book entitled The Gospel of Emerson, put together by Newton Dillaway and published by Unity Books, Lee's Summit, Missouri. It's a book which, if you read it quietly and thoughtfully, will bring a marvelous new peace and understanding. Emerson was one of the truly gifted intellectual giants of all time. He saw things with a wonderful clarity, through layers of the obvious and commonplace to the kernel of truth that lay within. In reading the little book on Emerson, I came across this line hidden down at the end of a paragraph. People wish to be settled. Only as far as they are unsettled is there any hope for them. You know, that takes some thinking to understand, but it's one of those statements we know intuitively to be true. Even though we strive to become settled and